Welcome back to Steel City Sports. So today we're going to be ranking the top 10 moves of the NFL offseason this far as of March 14th, 2024. Obviously, there's probably going to be some more trades going on. We're going to react to them when they happen. Obviously, we're still waiting to see where Justin Fields lands up and a couple other guys. But obviously, a lot happened this week already. So I wanted to sit down here and rank out the 10 best moves this far. And what I mean by best moves is either A, how much it's going to impact the team, or B, if they got a guy at a great value. So that's two of the big things that I'm looking at when I say I'm ranking the 10 best moves. So let's get into the list. Coming in at number 10, we have Deontay Johnson being traded to the Carolina Panthers. So the Panthers, for years now, it felt like they haven't been able to do anything right. It seemed like anytime they were involved in a trade, they were the ones getting fleeced. I feel like they finally won a trade, getting Deontay Johnson from my Steelers. At the time, I tried to put a positive spin on it for the Steelers. I tried to, see the best, try to see what the Steelers were doing. But now that I've had a couple days to think about this trade, I don't want to get vulgar, but I despise this move for the Pittsburgh Steelers. 100%. I don't get what we were thinking with this move. I know Deontay Johnson was vocally criticizing some stuff with the Steelers. He was kind of upset with the quarterback situation and all that. He wanted more targets, but he didn't formally request a trade, unless I missed that. Maybe in behind closed doors he did, but publicly we didn't hear anything about an official trade request from Deontay Johnson. So and this is what I said in the intro when I said about value. The Carolina Panthers gave up Deontay Johnson, who's an okay, serviceable level cornerback, to get the prime years of Deontay Johnson. He's at 27 years old. The next couple years are going to be the peak version of Deontay Johnson. And for us to give him up for an okay, serviceable cornerback, essentially, makes zero sense. I think Deontay Johnson is one of the best technical route runners in the NFL. And you just look at last year when he was out, the offense looked completely stagnant. I mean, the offense as a whole was hard to watch last year, but there was a noticeable difference whenever he was off the field and when he was on the field. When he came back, the offense felt a lot more free-flowing and opened up. And it makes no sense for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because now who's our number two option? Calvin Austin? I don't even know. Allen Robinson, he didn't do anything. He's gone now. So for me, this move makes zero sense for the Steelers. I think the Carolina Panthers finally do a right move, getting Bryce Young a really nice number one option. So sticking with the Steelers, at number 9, we have Patrick Queen coming over from Baltimore to my Steelers. And I promise, I didn't try to make this like a Steelers video, everything talking about the Steelers. No, it's just we've had a very busy offseason, which we typically don't have. I think this move is badass, taking him from the division rival. And, he's only grown ever since he's come into the NFL, and I think he is one of the best in-coverage tackling linebackers in the entire NFL. And now we have 3 elite players, at each what would you say, category on the defensive side of the ball. On the D-line, obviously, you have Watt. Linebacker, we now have Queen. And then the secondary, we have Minka. So we have an elite playmaker in each section of the defense, which I really like. That was kind of the blueprint with Ryan Shazier. So getting that now with Patrick Queen, I think is phenomenal. The deal, I think, was kind of a bargain as well. I heard some people say, I know Colin Cowherd said it was a fortune we gave him. I think that's complete BS. We're giving him basically $13.6 million a year for a 24-year-old charismatic leader. He can be a leader of a defense. So I think this was an awesome move, and especially for the fact that we took him from an in-division rival, I think this was a phenomenal move. And especially because it was a position of need. If you watched the Pittsburgh Steelers, you knew we were depleted at the linebacker position. Holcomb went out. Quan Alexander, who I really liked, got hurt. And then we had to call Miles Jack off his couch for the playoff game, and he was literally invisible on the field. If he would not have played in that game against Buffalo, I think we would have been better off. So getting a linebacker, position of need, taking him from the Ravens, I really like this move for the Steelers. At number 8, we have Brian Burns being traded to the New York Giants. So for him as a player, I kind of hate this because he's going from the worst team in the NFL to probably another bottom 5 team in the NFL. So, I'm kind of bummed out because I wanted to see him on a contending team. But for the New York Giants, for the value they gave up to bring in this guy who's a 25-year-old charismatic sack production monster, to pair with the already great defensive pieces they have on that team. For what they gave up to bring him in from Carolina is why this is on here, because they only had to give up a 2nd and a 6th round pick. Just a year ago, Brian Burns' value on the open market was 2 first-round picks plus other stuff. So to get him at that much of a discount, to get him signed up long-term, I think they gave him a 5-year deal after trading for him. They're going to have a really good defense next year. It's just going to suck because they're going to have arguably like the worst offense in the NFL, especially after losing Saquon. So just for the value they gave up, being able to bring in a premier pass rusher like this guy, I think it's an A+ signing. At number 7, we have the Raiders signing Christian Wilkins to a 4-year deal. This is pitiful for the Miami Dolphins. I mean, I get it. Like, they are in kind of cap hell right now, but you cannot let a 25-year-old guy of this caliber at that position to go for nothing. Like, that is what joke franchises do. So, an F for the Miami Dolphins. Like, that's what the Dolphins get for this offseason is an F, to lose this guy for nothing. These guys, like, I've talked about this in other videos, but these guys don't just grow on trees. Like, massive production sack monsters, especially for his age and the fact that he was homegrown, you let him go for nothing is terrible. That is an awful move for the Miami Dolphins. The Raiders steal him away. They don't have to give up anything for this guy. And they're basically going to be getting the best years of his career because I think he's 25, right? So to get him for the next 4 years now. Now, similar to what I said about Brian Burns, like, the Giants aren't going to be good with him because their offense sucks. Kind of a similar thing with the Raiders. Like, they have a chance to be one of the best, sack production teams, in terms of Max Crosby and Christian Wilkins. They tried this a couple years ago to pair Chandler Jones with Max Crosby. Obviously, that was a massive bust because Chandler Jones didn't pan out in Vegas. But I think, obviously, Christian Wilkins will. They're going to be a really destructive duo on the defense. But overall, with the Raiders, I don't know if it changes much, but this is more on just the fact that Miami let this guy go for nothing, I think is shameful. At number 6, we have Derrick Henry signing with the Baltimore Ravens. So the Steelers fan side of me obviously really hates this because I'm a massive Derrick Henry fan, but just as an unbiased NFL fan, I think this is going to be one of the most prolific duos ever. I mean, I get it. Derrick Henry is, you'd probably say he's out of his prime now, but he still rushed for 1,200 yards last year behind a bad offensive line that had no outside threats. I mean, like D-Hop was fine, but it's nothing like the Ravens passing attack. So now to put him behind a good offensive line with a dual threat quarterback with good weapons on Baltimore, now like the defense, the entire focus can't just be on Derrick Henry like it was in Tennessee the past 2 years. So now to put him with Lamar, if Derrick Henry's even just like 80 or 70% of what he was this past year, it's still Derrick frickin' Henry. Like, there's not really anyone like him in the NFL just for the frame, the tank ability for him to just truck defenders. And to have that alongside Lamar Jackson, like, I really think defenses are going to have, like, brain aneurysms trying to, like, decide, like, is we go after Lamar, we go after Derrick. Like, think of how chaotic that's going to be as a defender to have those two guys in a backfield. I think it's going to be really fun to watch. Like I said, as a Steelers fan, this move does really scare me. In Baltimore, they did have a couple losses on the defensive side of the ball. We already talked about Patrick Queen. They lost Stone as well. But I think this move more than makes up for it because it just adds another toy to the offense for Lamar, and I think it's going to be one of the most fun duos next year. To kick off the top 5, we go back to my Steelers, and that is we signed Russell Wilson for a $1.2 million deal. That's why this is in the top 5. Not that I think Russell Wilson is going to be some MVP candidate and take us to the Super Bowl. It's for the simple fact that you're getting a guy who threw 26 touchdowns last year on a $1 million contract. That's it. I think it's the best value deal in the entire NFL. The Steelers, as much as I've been like a massive defender of Kenny Pickett and gotten into a lot of arguments on this channel trying to defend Kenny Pickett, like, I'm not going to be delusional and act like this isn't a massive upgrade. Like, Kenny Pickett threw 6 touchdowns last year. Russell Wilson threw 26 touchdowns last year. So to get that added production at such a cheap contract, I think it would be ludicrous to not put this high up on the list just for that. And, we're probably going to make more videos about this in the offseason because, there's still a lot of time for next year to go, but it is a conversation to have of what's a fair expectation for Russell Wilson going into the year. I definitely felt better about the offense before we traded Deontay Johnson, like I said earlier, but it's clear that this is an upgrade over Pickett, and I'm really excited to see him in Pittsburgh. At number 4, we have Saquon Barkley going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So similar to what I said about Derrick Henry going to the Ravens, like, they were both on teams last year where the defense knew the entire game plan ran through them. Like, bad offensive lines, Quarterback play was bad or mediocre. And now they're going to a situation, let's focus more on Saquon. He's going to a position now where the Eagles, I know they lost Jason Kelce, but even with him gone, I think they still have a top 5 offensive line in the NFL. They have one of the most elite passing games in the NFL with 2, I think, legit top 15 wide receivers in the NFL with Devonta Smith and A.J. Brown. Jalen Hurts, I know, disappointed a lot of people last year, but to give him this guy, I mean, Saquon Barkley, you look at how productive he was on a bad team with a bad offensive line, with a bad quarterback, and an overall losing culture. How productive he was there. And now you put him in one of the most winning cultures with one of the most stacked offensive personnel in the entire league. They're literally an all-star team. Like, they are a Pro Bowl team, essentially, on offense. So I think they're going to be explosive to see. And, like, it's a proven thing that running backs, like, just thrive in Philadelphia. You look at Miles Sanders, after he left Philly, was nowhere near the same player. DeAndre Swift had by far his best season with the Philadelphia Eagles, and now you go out there and get a guy who was already considered to be top 5, maybe some people even had him top 3 at his position, to go out there and get him. And you're probably going to be getting like the best part of his career now as he's entering his athletic prime, and also adds a lot to the passing game as well. So just for the versatility of a weapon that he really is, to add to their already juggernaut roster, I'm excited to see it. Coming in at number 3, we have Darnell Hunter to the Houston Texans, fresh off a 16.5 sack season. You give that productive of a player to DeMeco Ryans, who proved with a bunch of kids that he's already an elite defensive mind. You give him this game wrecker, and Houston is going to be a monstrous defense. You got their younger guys. They're all going to be a year better next year, and adding this guy who just came off 16.5 sacks is game-changing for any team he would have went to, but I love that he went to Houston because they have so much potential to be a great team. And similar to what I said about Wilkins with the Dolphins, like, shame on the Vikings for letting this guy go for nothing. Like, I'm tired of saying it, but these guys don't grow on trees. Like, these guys, outside of quarterback, maybe you could argue a couple other positions, but your pass rushers are so vitally important. That's why they go for so much money. So to lose a guy like this, especially when he's homegrown like he was in Minnesota, to lose him for nothing, it really sucks. But Houston gets a massive get. And I talked about this in my instant reaction, is whenever you have a quarterback as good as C.J. Stroud, who's already easily a top 10 quarterback in the NFL, I think you can argue he's maybe even like a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. When you have that guy on their rookie deal, you have to push all your chips in the middle of the table. When you're paying your quarterback nothing, you have to go out there and take big risks. So I like Houston being aggressive, not only getting him, but they also added Joe Mixon, who I think is a great get as well. We go from one Vikings departure to another. At number 2, I have Kirk Cousins going to the Atlanta Falcons. Now, some of you might think that I'm overrating this move, but it's for the simple fact that look at the Atlanta Falcons division. There's no clear-cut winning team in that division. So to go out there and get Kirk Cousins, who, if you're getting, I know he's coming off the injury, but he's a guy who never really relied on his athleticism. So if he's like 90%, even 80% of what he was last season, I still think he has a case to be the best quarterback. It's between him and Baker. And as much as I really liked Baker, and he had a great season last year, people kind of forget like how turbulent the Bucs were. Like, there was a point, I think they were like 2-5. Like, they really got hot towards the end of the year. I think this division is wide open for Atlanta with their roster. I think Atlanta has actually a really, really good roster. They've just been lacking a guy like Kirk Cousins. That's why I love this signing so much, is because all they needed is like slightly above average quarterback play, and Kirk Cousins has shown throughout his entire career that he can provide that. You've invested so much draft capital in weapons, and it's like, it's cool to have offensive weapons, but if you don't have someone to throw the ball to them, what does it matter if you have them? So to get Kyle Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson, to get them a guy who can actually play make and could potentially throw 30 touchdowns in this division, I could see them winning 10, 11 games next year, hosting a playoff game. I think this is an incredible signing because this is Atlanta. This is all they've been missing the past couple of years. They have a great offensive line, great weapons, and I think an underrated defense, which they can add to in the draft. I think Atlanta is now the favorite in that division. And at number 1, we have kind of a boring one because he didn't change teams, but I think it is still the most important signing of the offseason thus far, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs holding on to Chris Jones. I thought they were probably going to have to let him go just given his age, given what he's worth on the open market, but with the NFL extending the salary cap, it allows the Chiefs to keep their great players, and losing Chris Jones would have been a devastating blow to this team. And he has been not probably as vital as Mahomes and Kelsey, but right under them in terms of this dynasty, has been their best defensive piece. I think he's the best run stopper in the NFL, has had like 26 sacks the past 2 seasons, and has been a complete game wrecker in the playoffs. So you couldn't let him go. Like, it would have really broken the Chiefs' heart. He is the heart and soul of that defense. So to keep him around for a couple more years, I think it was the best move of the offseason. So I could have definitely missed one or two. So let me know down in the comments. Make sure you let me know your favorite moves of the offseason. If you made it this far, I appreciate you listening. Please like and subscribe.